Welcome to the Kinetic Belief podcast. I'm so excited to champion and encourage you every week, right here.
Pushing the boundaries of expectations and rewriting the rules of adventure are the reasons we get up in the morning. This is a way of life, a huge and growing community of explorers and adventurers, leading the way, blazing new trails, and raising the bar. We share your hunger for a life without limits, and we know you'll stop at nothing to get there.
Hi, Meg. How are you today?
Hi, Stephen. How are you?
Isn't it a beautiful day?
We are so in nature, in the most beautiful place on earth. Well, I think so.
We're in northern New Mexico, right on the border of Colorado, at about 12,000 feet above sea level in the Rocky Mountains.
It's so beautiful here. The blue in the sky, I just think it almost doesn't look real.
And we are surrounded by alpine meadow, by forests of pine and aspen.
Yeah.
Isn't it beautiful?
So stunning.
Yeah, this is where we like to do our podcast. This is where we spend most of our time. And the reason is so that we can come in tune and in touch with the creative part of ourselves.
I never feel more soul peace and spirit peace than when I'm in just the wild places. It is so perfect, and it just ministers to my spirit in such a strong way.
Well, it does. And I think that in order to get rid of distractions, you really need to put effort into getting away from the crowds and the masses and getting away from man-made articles and find a place that's pristine, natural, full of beauty and peace.
It's all about balance, isn't it?
It
Because
is.
you want to take that time to walk through a gallery and enjoy someone else's creativity, but then you also need that time to unplug, recenter, think about yourself, what you want. Yeah, it's just the perfect spot for it.
And today we want to talk about kinetic belief and attracting the perfect life.
Yes. Is it easy?
Is it easy? Well, no, it's not easy unless you know what you're doing, and then it becomes easy because it is a discipline. It's a discipline. It's a discipline that requires, first of all, knowledge, and it requires that you study yourself, intrinsically dig in, and you have to understand what it is that your purpose is. Why are you here? You see, we are eternal beings, and we are having a physical experience. We come into this world. We are all creators. And I think this is something that intrinsically most people know, but very few people have taken the time to meditatively understand what it means to be a creator. We're creating our lives. We're creating our lives through our belief system. Belief, Megan, is what you adhere to and rely on as being your truth. You know, we hear a lot of people say, well, that's my truth and that's my truth. And I would just say be very careful, because it is a reckless thing to regard something as your truth unless it is pure, wholesome, beautiful, and to be desired as a good thing.
You mentioned that we're going to talk about receiving our perfect life. Do you think that looks vastly different for everyone, or is it just a little different, or are we all sort of chasing the same things?
The perfect life is different for everybody. Everyone has a different purpose. And so perfection for you is going to be different than it is for me. And that's one of the mistakes that most people make when you go through the catalogs and the magazines and the brochures of life, and you allow someone else to feed you the experience of owning the yacht, or the experience of owning the 27,000 square foot house, or the experience of horseback riding as being the perfect life. Be very careful. It's not necessarily your perfect life. Even though they make it look appealing, it doesn't mean that it's for you. So perfection for you is going to be different than it is for me.
How do I find out what is perfect for me? Because, you know, like you just mentioned, a yacht, that sounds pretty good, but then how do I know that once I get it, I'm not going to walk on board and go, well, this kind of sucks. This is not what I should have been striving for at all.
Well, of course, there's nothing like replacing practical experience with something else and practical knowledge. That is the most sure way of knowing. And that's, for example, you'll hear some people say, well, the best day of my life was when I bought a boat. The second best day of my life is when I sold it. That's the person that didn't know what they wanted, but they bought into the brochure, and it looked like it was a wonderful thing because it was perfection for somebody else. I had a friend who retired, moved to Charleston, South Carolina. And he said he bought a 27-foot fishing boat and spent $600,000 on the thing, and
goodness.
took it out and realized he didn't like to fish.
Goodness.
But he loved the brochures and he loved all the pictures and
So
photographs.
experiential knowledge is key to working out the perfect life for you.
Well, it is one way. It is not the preferred way, because you can spend all of your life chasing after dreams and things that really don't belong to you. And what it is, Megan, is that we all have a heart's desire, but you don't know what your heart's desire is until it's manifested. And that's the beautiful thing about kinetic belief, attracting the perfect life. The way that you engage that perfect life for yourself is not to just simply cut out pictures from magazines or collect brochures, because I would say 70 to 80% of those photographs and pictures that you're cutting out, the reality of those pictures is going to escape you when you begin to adhere to and rely on those as something that you actually want. Allow the universe to begin creating the thing that you're going to end up manifesting. And the way that we do that is to level the creative field in our own existence by beginning to practice unconditional love for others, but then also a sense of gratitude for all things in your circumstances or situation. The reason this is important is because there's so much to this that it's difficult to get it into one podcast, but I'm going to try to give you some bits and pieces as I feel moved in my spirit to communicate. I believe that there's some listeners today that need to hear this. In kinetic belief, attracting the perfect life, it's going to be based on desire, but be very careful, because desire is whatever you have the strongest feeling for. That does not necessarily mean that it's something good. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's something bad, because it could be either one of those. A strong feeling, for example, if you have bitterness towards someone else, that's a strong feeling. Did you know that that strong feeling is actually interpreted as desire? So if you have bitterness towards someone else, you are desiring that bitterness toward them. What the universe does on the molecular level is it begins to attract that same energy back to you. So the thing that you have turned animosity toward is going to be attracted toward you. You'll have more of that experience. You'll have more animosity turned toward you. You'll be creating an environment of animosity and bitterness, because it's what you are desiring.
Wow.
Not as a good thing, but as a strong feeling performing in your life on that creative plane.
That's a huge shift in perspective, because I would have, if you said, Megan, what does desire mean? I would have instantly thought, oh, well, it's whatever I want. It's what I
That's
want
right.
some ice cream. I desire ice cream, but it's really more of, you should really define it more as a focus.
Yes.
As a, an intense, laser focus toward a thing, and that can be good or bad for you.
Well, let's take the
huge.
boat again for an example, because if you think that you want a boat, okay, you may actually enjoy the experience of owning that boat. But if you begin that desiring of the boat from a place of still harboring bitterness in your life towards someone, not liking a vehicle that you have, not liking the neighborhood that you live in, all these things that are unchecked, you haven't balanced the creative plane in your own life, and you have bitterness, you have discontent, you have anger, you've got all these things that are producing a strong feeling and an emotion within you. These are all desires. So the desire for a boat may or may not actually be elevated above the desires of anger and bitterness and unresolved emotions that are causing strife.
Wow, it's still just blowing my mind to hear you say, you're desiring bitterness. It's a lot to swallow because I've defined desire as, wanting good things. So that's a huge shift in consciousness. It really is. And I think just sitting here pondering it, I think it's going to take a lot of mind thought retraining.
Break it down this way. Desire is a strong feeling.
Okay.
Desire is a strong feeling. So if you hate someone, you
That's a strong
desire
feeling.
that. It's a strong feeling.
Wow.
If you want a boat more than anything else, that's desire. Both of those are desire. But if you have that hatred or bitterness working in your life,
Any negativity, yeah.
any negativity, if that's unchecked, if you have not meditated your way through the process of leveling the creative field in your own existence, it's not time to begin working kinetic belief toward attracting the perfect life. I would say to you, before you begin the practice, which you will learn through listening to these podcasts
Yes.
or reading my books, going to our website and watching these podcasts, or before you begin trying to kinetically attract the perfect life, you're going to have to level the creative plane in your own life to make sure that you are attracting the thing that you actually desire.
What I do like about this is that it puts the responsibility back on me, because it always feels intensely frustrating when you want change, you want your life, you want to alter your life or even yourself in some way, and you feel out of control. But this puts you squarely in control, in the driver's seat of every possible situation.
And that's where you want to be, because you want your life to be perfect.
Yeah.
If there's something missing or broken in your life, you're still not at the place of perfection. If there is animosity, if there are people that have access to you that shouldn't have access to you, they're not agreeing with your peace, your place of peace, then you still have some work to do. And that's one of the things that I'm going to be able to help our listeners get to the point of leveling the creative plane in their lives so that they can attract the perfect life.
Wow, I love that. You just mentioned a whopper of a topic, which is people. I know that when I first got a hold of Kinetic Belief, Law of Attraction, all of your teachings, that the first thing that was just naturally required was to replace or just simply get rid of a lot of people in my life. And it wasn't even because they were deeply toxic, but it was really because they were from who I was and not who I wanted to be. And I don't think I could have done it without doing that. Do you think that this requires an overhaul of all friends and family, or how do you approach that?
Every direction, Megan, it requires an overhaul, and it's probably easier than it sounds. It's difficult when we are double-minded, when we say, yeah, but I understand peace, I understand my creative place in this universe, I understand attracting mass to create and rearrange my circumstances, I understand all of that. But I've had this friend since 6th grade, and I don't want to get rid of him or her, and they're fun and they're entertaining. That's the yeah, but.
Yeah.
You have to, again, level the creative plane in your own life. And relationships, since that's what we're talking about, you're going to want to make sure that anyone that has access to you, they are in agreement with your peace. They're in agreement with your kinetic belief that you're attracting that perfect life. And the only way to do this is to have a very frank conversation with people. And if they are pushing back, if they're saying that sounds unlikely for you, it sounds like it's strange, if they're not in agreement, then you're going to have to put them on notice. If you really want to begin attracting perfect health, prosperity, mind, body, spirit, and soul, you're going to have to take an account of those that have access to you and make sure that there's not anyone that's what I call a border bully, that's pushing back on what you're wanting to achieve. There are going to be many challenges to it. And there are many barriers that come from people in this life, and there are lots of tests. And it's going to be very important that you can discern what those are and do something about it. So yeah, friends, family, no one has an unequivocal access to you unless they are in agreement with your peace.
Well, I've heard you mention before, they're creators too. You know, they are creating as much of a life as you are. And whenever you are, sort of spending large amounts of time with people, you're sharing in their creations. It's very powerful.
That's right. You are communing with their creation. Every one of us are spiritual beings having a human experience. We come from the non-physical into this world, into the physical as creators. You're a creator and I'm a creator. All of us are participating. No one gets a pass. It doesn't matter what you believe or don't believe, you are a creator.
Yeah.
Now you may be in control of your creation, or you are just randomly creating good and bad, or all bad, or very rarely is it all good unless you know exactly what you're doing.
Yes.
Megan, there's been 1% of the total population historically that understand the law of kinetic belief, attracting the perfect life. And it is it's through determination to use the tools as a creator to arrange the circumstances of your life to where it is one of perfection, where nothing is missing or broken, and all things are working together for good. And you've got perfect health, and your relationships are wonderful, and you're prospering, and everything you put your hands to prospers, and you are able to go freely and come freely and travel. And these are the great musicians and the artists and athletes, those of great wealth, just the avatars that we write about and that we are attracted to. That's the thing that they're all doing, and that is the same thing that's available to you and to me and every other creator that's ever been on this planet. But you have to understand the law of kinetic belief and how it works.
And that's one of the biggest parts of it, is you can't implement something that you don't fully understand the mechanics of. And so understanding, like we've talked about today, understanding what desire truly means, that it means feeling strongly towards something.
Good or bad.
Good or bad. The
That's
or
right.
bad thing is
You
what I have
can't-
to remember.
You cannot decide that I want to be a millionaire while you're hating this guy who's a millionaire. Because hating the person that's a millionaire because it's out of jealousy or pride or whatever it is, whatever's backing that up, doesn't matter. The
Yeah.
fact is that you are disliking somebody for the very thing that you want. That's a strong feeling. That is a desire. That is what you are attracting. You are attracting the displeasure of someone that has $1 million.
Wow.
So that displeasure then is the creative force of that now goes to work in you, and it will absolutely bring to pass the displeasure of you occupying $1 million, and you will not attract it.
So it sounds like it's extremely important to have everything in your life attracting the good things that you really desire. You can't have one little thing out of whack and still expect all these other good things you're working on to happen.
That's right.
It's like the whole pie has to be there.
Leveling the creative plane
Yeah.
means getting rid of anything that's negative. We are creators who operate from a platform of energy, and we're vibrating on a level of positivity when we're
Yeah.
bringing goodness into our lives. And so you
Absolutely.
check all of that. Make sure you have no bitterness. That's why unconditional love for your fellow man is going to be vitally important to your success, and to not judge others, not to be jealous. Don't be competitive. That is one of the biggest untruths that there is today that's trying to be put on people, is that there's not enough to go around, so you need to be the first there to get it.
Right.
Or that actually is the engine to jealousy. Often, the jealousy that somebody has a nicer car than me, or they have all the money, or they've got the better business. So I'm going to go online and give them bad reviews so people will come to my business.
Wow. Toxic.
That's toxic.
So toxic.
There is more than enough to go around. We are creators. If there is a lack of something, then we have the ability to create that. The God particle ensures it. It's been proven scientifically that we are creators now. And this was in 2012. You can listen to other podcasts and find out about the ability to create using the God particle. We are all creators, and we are attracting the thing that we believe, adhere to, and rely on.
So we've talked about not only how to receive, or at least I feel like this was sort of 101, like, okay, I want to do this, step one to manifesting your perfect life. We've talked about how to even discern what your perfect life is, not just grabbing the first thing that you see in a magazine and putting it up on your vision board, but become thoughtful and introspective to determine that. The desires, we've covered that. That's beautiful. I'm going to work on that because that feels like a new perspective to work through. We even covered toxic relationships or any relationships. They don't, and that's what really got me about this conversation was a relationship does not have to be deeply toxic to still restrain you in receiving everything that you want to make that life perfect.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. As creators, we come into this world with dominion. Dominion is part of our authority as creators on the earth. That dominion enables us to control our environment. But the problem is, Megan, is so many people abuse their dominion and they try to control other people.
Right.
And so I would say that if you have a relationship with someone where they're trying to control you, that's one you shouldn't be in.
Absolutely. And I find that that's usually because they have trouble controlling their own life, their own issues and situations. And it doesn't have to be a huge lob, like you don't have to just cut them off in this angry, hostile, you're toxic, get out of my life way. You can just move away, just move on.
That's right.
Just
move on.
As far as relationships go, just move on from them and just wish them well and leave them in the past with your old self.
And then if you're walking in unconditional love for strangers and friends and family, that is, again, it's freeing yourself from dominion. If you want to change somebody, you change yourself. Never put expectations on someone else.
That's a big one to end on. If you want to change something, change yourself.
That's right.
There it is.
That's
responsibility.
Yes.
Taking responsibility. Well, this has flown by.
It has.
I cannot believe that our time's already up, but this has been wonderful and incredibly insightful.
Awesome. That's wonderful. Level the creative plane and begin changing your life to the perfect.
See you next week.
All right. Bye.